Hey y'all, this video is an update of one I did back in November of 2023. A lot has happened since then, including a huge uptick in the number of people from the United States looking to leave. And something we've got to acknowledge is that as more people are interested and trying to move abroad, we've seen countries change their requirements for residency and generally make it a little bit more difficult or increase the amount of money you need in order to qualify. So I thought now in almost May 2025, it would be a good time to update this video. I'm Adelia Borshade, also known as Picky Girl Travels the World. This is my channel where I share about my life living abroad, taking control of my finances, and my experiences traveling the world in an effort to help you if you are on a similar path. If those things sound good to you, hit subscribe so that YouTube could bring more content like this to your feed. All right, so let's go. Ground rules. I need everybody to remember that the point of this video is not how to earn money abroad. It is not how to get a job abroad. Watch one of my other videos if that's what you are interested in. The focus is on countries that you can move to that you don't need to have a lot of money. These are countries with either no or very low financial solvency requirements. Most of these types of visas fall into a couple of categories. Pensionado or retirement visas, rentista visas, which are like passive income, and digital nomad visas. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is that this is not an extensive list. I may mention a country, I may mention a specific visa from a specific country. That does not mean that country doesn't have other residency options. I am only sharing what I feel are some of the best country residency options that fit in this category where that you can move abroad for less than $1,500 a month in income, not cost of living. That is two separate things. This video, we are not discussing cost of living. All right, so let's get to it. Some of the countries that were in my previous video continue to make the list, and then some of the countries who were on the list before, we've had to remove. All right, so first up on our list is Argentina. And I know you're thinking, but isn't Argentina's economy not doing so great? Previously, Argentina needed a very small amount of money. I don't know if this is a policy change, an update of policy, or just the reality of their currency situation. But now to qualify for residency in Argentina for their rentista visa, you need to have at least $2,000 of passive income from rent or something else passive. It cannot be earned income that you are actively earning. So they're kind of off the list if your cutoff is a firm $1,500. Previously on the list, we had Indonesia. We've got to move them off the list. I think now you need to have, I could not find any kind of income requirement for Indonesia. I found that you needed to have $130,000 to invest. So Indonesia is off the list. Another country that has to come off the list is the Philippines. I can't find anything online about residency that does not require you to be married to somebody or be the parent of someone. So I don't think the program they had previously still exists. If you wanted to go to South Asia, maybe Sri Lanka was on your list. They were on our list previously. But their previous program, My Dream Home, which required that you have $1,500 of income, it doesn't look like they are issuing any new visas anymore. So we will remove them from the list. They are just doing extensions of that program. So you have to already have one of those visas. Otherwise, no. Uruguay. I'm kind of on the fence about them being on this list. According to the information that I found, you need to have at least $18,000 in a bank account, accompanied by a monthly passive income requirement of at least $1,500 per applicant. The whole idea of this particular video is for people who don't have money saved. So I don't know that we can count Uruguay. But if you are somebody that does have $18,000, maybe they will accept like retirement accounts, because it's going to be far easier to have $18,000 in that than $18,000 in cash. All right. And another one that comes off of our list is Venezuela. And I got a lot of grief for including Venezuela in the first place. But the reality is, if we're only looking at countries that require less than $1,500, they made the cut. But the world is a little different now than it was in 2023, given particularly the deterioration of the relationship with the United States, between the United States and Venezuela. Although the requirement is still something like $1,200, given the current relationship with the United States and how things look like they're going, I would probably skip Venezuela. So the Dominican Republic, again, they're kind of skirting the line here. If you have passive income, you only need $1,500 USD per month to qualify. If you are bringing any dependents, you need an additional $250 for each dependent. Now, if you have actively earned income, you need to make at least $2,000 a year. Peru is still on our list. They have a combination retirement passive income visa. You need to have proof of permanent monthly income of $1,000, $500 for each dependent. So Peru's still on the list. Ecuador is really interesting. Ecuador, you've got a variety of options, and all of them require less than $1,500 USD a month. Okay, they have a pensionado visa, they have a rentista visa. According to the information that I found, both of them would require a minimum monthly income of $1,380. Now, there is something called a professional residency visa. I don't hear people talking about this one as much, but if you can show that you graduated from a university, and I do believe it also includes associate degrees, and you can show either that you've got $10,000 in the bank over the past 6 months, or just even a credit card statement showing that you have a credit limit of at least $1,500, Ecuador will give you residency. And for all of these countries, we're talking about residency for the long term. That's my other criteria for the countries I'm sharing with you. These are all places that if you wanted to live there permanently, you could with one of these visas. And so that's 3. Ecuador has another one. It's called a digital nomad visa, I believe, $1,350. And it's one of few digital nomad visas that have a path to permanent residency and or citizenship. So Ecuador definitely might be worth looking into. Nicaragua is still on our list. I think the amount you have to have has gone up, because I know at one point, Nicaragua, you only needed like $680 a month. It is now $1,000 a month. You have to be at least 45 years old. That's for their retirement, their pensioner, their pensionado visa. They do have a rentista visa, which again is typically passive income. And for that, you need to demonstrate at least $1,250 in passive investment income, dividends, rental income. And let me say something about dividends. Dividends doesn't have to be just like stock dividends. You could own a company and elect not to take a salary from that company and simply take a dividend. And that would count as passive income, something to consider. Probably the most popular one on this list, Portugal. Very few European countries can you get a visa where you need less than $1,500 a month. Nobody really, in Western Europe, nobody really even comes close to Portugal. This is primarily their D7 visa. You need to have, now I found differing amounts, but it is a multiplier of the Portuguese minimum wage, about 870 euros a month. Given our current exchange rates, I would bet that that's something like $950, $975 a month. You can bring a spouse. You would need 50% of that monthly amount additionally for each spouse, and for each spouse. Hopefully you just bring in one, because one's enough. For each child, dependent child, it's 30% of that amount for you. When I made the video previously, folks kept being in the comments saying like, why are there no African countries here? There was an African country on the list, Mauritius. Mauritius has made the news in recent years because they have a retired non-citizen visa. They've done a lot of marketing about like, we want you to come live here and not work. That's a fancy way of saying you can get a retirement visa. You can't, now I'm not 100% sure that this amount is still accurate, because one of the issues with many of the African countries is there's very little information online, reliable information online about requirements. But it's about $1,500 USD per month, and you would have to like transfer that to a local bank account. But if you're over 50 and you've got $1,500 a month coming in, you could live in the island paradise of Mauritius, if that's something you're into. Panama is probably the second most popular of the countries that is on this list, Portugal being the first. Panama has its rentista visa, which, as we've said repeatedly, is a passive income visa. Now, what makes Panama special is you only have to be 18 years old. But if you can show that you've got at least 1,000 USD coming from like guaranteed for life, from it, and the language they have on their website says government program, private corporation, but it could be Social Security, it could be military, state retirement, something like that. You can qualify for residency there. If you are bringing a spouse or minor children, you would need to increase that by $250 for each person. And one of the other reasons that makes Panama so popular is if you get the pensionado visa, there's a ton of discounts that they give, flights, medicine, all kind of stuff. Okay. The country of Paraguay is often listed as one of the easiest places to get residency. I cannot find any specific amount of money that you have to have. It used to be that you needed to deposit $4,500 into an account, but they got rid of that requirement. So I feel comfortable keeping Paraguay on this list of places that you need less than $1,500 a month. The information I found literally said there is no economic requirement, but I don't know. And what makes it even more interesting, if you are someone who's kind of looking for your Plan B residency, that's a country where you don't have to be there every day, that you could spend significant amounts of time outside the country. To maintain your residency in Paraguay, I think you only need to be in the country at least one day a year. Now, new places that we are adding to the list. Guatemala. You can get permanent residency in Guatemala with an income of $1,250. And you would need to increase that by $300 for each dependent. Another country that we are adding to the list of countries you can move to with an income of less than $1,500 US is Armenia. According to their website, the government website, you need proof of solvency, but they don't specify how much that is. And basically, you would be there. It doesn't have to be passive income. Actually, it needs to be active income because you will register as a business there to qualify for a temporary or a permanent residency permit. So it's kind of like freelancing or a digital nomad visa, although I do not believe that is what it's called. It might be called like a self-employment visa. So Armenia is one we're going to add to the list. We're also going to add Albania. It's another one that does not specify an amount, but given the cost of living there, I think it is pretty safe to assume that it is going to be less than $1,500 a month. So again, they ask for proof of solvency, and there is a path. Every one that I am sharing with you has a path to permanent residency and or citizenship. So some of these may be intended for digital nomads or intended for freelancers, but unlike most digital nomad visas, there is a path for you to stay in these countries long term. Now, the one that I am most excited that has gotten added to our list of countries is Germany. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, it's gotta be hard to get a German residency visa. Germany has really been on the ball about trying to get people who have skills to come to their country. This is called a freelance visa, and it says you got to prove your solvency. Everything that I have found online says that you need to prove an income of 9,000 euros a year. That is well below our cutoff of $1,500 a month. Now, I will caution you with this one. I think you would have to be very careful if you're scraping by at 9,000 euros a year. I think you're going to have to be very intentional about where you would want to relocate in Germany, because Western Europe tends to be a bit more expensive. So I think that if you make in excess of that, I think you'll be fine. But if you're just coming in at the requirement, I think things would be a little tough. There is our update. If you have been feeling like it's not possible for me to move abroad because everybody's financial requirements are so high, I've just given you some examples. That is not the case. There are places you can move. Something I do want to remind you of is I have just covered the basics when it comes to requirements. Every country is going to have different requirements. Many of them will have physical presence requirements. And so you're going to have to do your research and figure out which countries fit you financially, as well as how you plan to spend your time abroad. So thanks for watching, guys. If you want some ideas about how to get a job abroad and things like that, I have linked in the description a couple of my previous videos that discuss those topics.